Well, got 1 week to go before we head away, and I've got these jobs to do, so let's get into it. Unfortunately for me, this car has got pole position on the hoist and I don't want to leave it outside at the moment. So I'm stuck doing all the work on the ground like the good old days. Probably need to put a second hoist in, but we need to get it done. Time is ticking. It's been a while since I've actually driven this car. I haven't taken it out four-wheel driving since I went away with Tyler Thompson, and that was back in January, I think. I think I've only driven it twice since then on the road, so it's been sitting around doing not much, and I suppose that's what happens when there's so much going on with the other project. But we are planning a Queen's birthday trip, and that's coming up very quick. So the list isn't huge, but there's a couple decent ones. So the main one is to get the rear diff lock in. I've got to change a power steering pump. The front shocks have got to come out for a service, and I'm changing a couple things there. And then there's about 5 smaller jobs as well. And then we'll be ready to rock and roll. So we've got a fun trip planned this year, and hopefully with a bit of luck, we get a bit of rain or snow, and that will keep it interesting for us. So let's make a mess and we'll get this diff out. So this is a locker I'm putting in. It's just a new style ARB rear. These are the locker that I like the most for a number of reasons, but I've had success with these lockers. I've never really had an issue. The reason it's apart is, if you remember back last year, it would have been just before I went on a drive with Timmy and Jesse Gleason. I took the race car out and I broke the short side axle in the locker, and then it blew this end cap apart. It takes out that, the seal housing and everything, like, just makes a mess. And I ordered all these new bits, but they weren't here in time for that drive. So I had to rob parts of this locker to get the race car going, and then these new parts will go on this locker to go in here. So I've got a new end cap, a new adjuster nut. Now this is the locking ring, so this slides over the side gear to lock the diff together. I can see the edges of the gear are sort of tapered off. These don't engage by much. I think they only engage by about 4 mil. And then what happens is, if you crash lock them, it takes the corner of the gear off, and then when you load it up, it forces the gear back out. So this gear still looks okay, but it probably has been crash locked a couple times. So while it's apart, I thought I'd put a new locking ring in it. Now this one's actually billet, so a mate of mine makes these. So I hit him up and asked him to make one for me. I then had to get a wave washer as well. Now these wave washers go between the housing and the engagement ring, so the air pushes it onto the spring and locks it in, and then the spring unlocks it. The original type of this design had 12 of these little springs and these little holes in the back of the gear. A little bit of a pain in the ass to set up. So his one doesn't have provisions for any holes, so yeah, I just had to buy a wave washer. That slips in there, and then the gear slips in over the top. Because I'm running on limited time, I'm gonna palm all this off to my brother He just works for himself. He does all this sort of stuff. He's real good at it, so I know he's going to do a better job than me. And while he's got it, I'll just get him to rebuild the whole diff. I called the guys at Roadrunner and said I needed a rebuild kit ASAP, so they got onto it quick smart. And there's a full diff rebuild kit here with big and small pinion bearings, carrier bearings, pinion seal, and diff gasket and that sort of stuff. So I've got everything there to have a nice fresh diff, and I'm looking forward to having a locker in the back. So I'll go drop this off to him and we'll keep doing some jobs. While I was talking to him, I got some of these grill clips as well. So these are just little plastic clips that push in and then the screws into it. Keeps your grill nice and tight. These are actually for the pony. I've already got them on this car and I've got some on the race car as well. I think we all know how good the factory clips are on a patrol. They always break. So at least this way you can just unscrew them and then their grill comes off easy. I magically got the wagon on the hoist now that it's free. We've had a couple little issues with the rear diff, which hopefully is getting sorted real soon. And then that will probably be the last job to happen is put the rear diff in, and it's probably going to be the night before we leave. But we will keep soldering on and getting jobs knocked off the list, and having the car on the hoist now will make it 10 times easier. So the first job we'll tackle is I've got to pull the shocks out of the front. Now, one of the reasons I want to pull them out is because the heam joints or the spherical bearings at either end in the mounts are only real cheap ones. I think I paid like $8 each for them, and they're flogged out. They're just rubbish. So the good spherical bearings are about $80 plus each, sometimes a little bit more depending on the size. Times that by 2 per shock, and then times that by 2 for the 2 front ones. So you're up for like, you know, over $300 plus in just spherical bearings. I had a mate who is in the same predicament, and he actually made up some rubber bush conversions for him. So he machined up 2 end caps and then a center sleeve, and then they just take like a normal shock rubber that push in from either side, and then yeah, you can just push out the spherical bearing and then these go in their place. So he's been trialing them for a while and he reckons they're good. It is annoying in the front here. They are knocking obviously because they're only cheap ones. They didn't last long at all. And the constant knocking drives me mad. So also while it's out, I did have some strange scoring on the inside on just the right-hand side one. I don't know if it was fouling somewhere or, you know, I've had some sort of issue. But yeah, last time I pulled them apart, which is a fair while ago now, it had some damage on the inside. So I've had this shock body sitting on the bench for probably 6 months I've been meaning to do it for. So while they're out, I'll replace this right-hand shock body and then we'll be good to go. These are a bit annoying to pull out, so let's do it. I knew they wouldn't last long, but these are probably done like 3 drives. So that is bin worthy. All right, well, they're all done, rubber bushes in the end. So I did actually give the shock a service, some fresh oil while I changed the body. I thought there's no point in putting dirty oil back in it. So I'll give the other one a service while I do the bushes as well. But everything fits in there nicely, it looks good and it feels good. So we'll throw this back in and I'll smash out the other side. All right, well that's another job we can tick off the list. While I was underneath, I did actually pull out some radius arm spacers. So they've always been in there. They just space the drop box forward 10 mil, which in turn spaces the diff forward 10 mil. And I think they also have a 10 mil push in the radius arms as well. Now I pulled these spacers out because I don't ever plan to put the big wheels back on it. With this ute getting built, that will be that car's job. So this car will stay with this current tyre size or less once that ute is done. So I thought while I'm there, I'll just whip these out. It only took 2 seconds, so quick and easy. So I keep getting a lot of questions about these two Megalife lithium batteries and how they're going. You'll have to excuse the mess going on in here. There's just heaps going on with winch wiring and compressors and pumps and tanks, and there's all sorts going on. But so far the batteries have been absolutely awesome. They've been in here for nearly 12 months and they're still going strong. So I'll put a battery load tester on it and they still test up fine. I don't have the means to do a capacity test, but everything seems fine there. They run the fridge, everything fine, the compressors. And if you've seen the video from back in October, November, Timmy come up from Tassie and Jesse Gleason come down from Queensland, and we took the cars out for a drive. So I actually put these two batteries in the race car for the day to see how they would pull the winch, and it was quite impressive. So they powered the winch better than the 4 batteries that I currently have in there, with like 100 kilo weight saving or whatever it was. Like, you know, I was very impressed with these. They were a big investment, and I sort of run the gauntlet doing what I'm doing with them. Like, no one had ever tested them the way I was testing them, so they've held up just fine. And I did do a big video when I put these in of power comparison and all sorts of stuff, so I'll link that as well. And I've just had Justin from J&E Auto Elect come around and install this battery equalizer. So Megalife recommend that you have a battery equalizer in a 24 volt setup. Now this has been on the shelf for probably 6 months. I've been meaning to put it in for ages, but I just haven't had the time, and the car hasn't really been doing too much lately. But hopefully with all these repairs, we'll start getting into some driving. So Justin come around and installed that. It's only 3 wires, super quick. And that has a Bluetooth connection and a phone app as well that you can monitor each battery voltage and things like that. And yeah, this will keep them nice and equal in the voltage department, so one doesn't get more charge than the other, and that will ensure that the batteries last a long time. So next job on the list is power steering pump. The pump that's currently on the car is carrying on like a pork chop. It's whining. It doesn't turn that well. There's all sorts going on. It's actually frustrating to drive sometimes because you have to pull on the wheel so hard. So I think I should change it out. So this is just a marketplace special. It's actually a 4.8 pump, and I did know that the 4.5 pumps and the 4.2 pumps were interchangeable, but I wasn't aware that the 48 pumps were also interchangeable. I don't think there's a great deal of difference with them, but everyone I spoke to said put a 48 pump on it. So I did find this on Marketplace, but I also have a brand new one coming. The guys at Roadrunner are sorting that out. The one on the race car is absolutely like 10 times worse than this car that nearly has no power steering. So either way, both cars needed new power steering pumps. But I thought just to get this car going, I'll put this pump on, see if it actually makes any difference, and just make sure it is the pump that's a problem, and not really that hard to change either. So we'll get cracking. All right, so I've got the intercooler pipe on, pumps all done, the belts on, everything. So I've topped it up a little bit with fluid. I've just let it sit for a bit. So we'll top it up one last time. It seems like it's pretty full. So I'll just go and start it and make sure that it's going to bleed up all good. So I did also end up changing the pulley because the 48 one was 15 millimeters smaller. Pretty much the only reason I changed it is because I don't have time to go get a shorter belt. And this belt that's on there is pretty new and I've got heaps of spares for them. So yeah, when I get back, I'll probably swap this pulley back onto it and then go get some more belts for it. But it'll be good to see how it works anyway. Well, this is the last piece of the puzzle that I needed to get the car ready. So like I would have mentioned earlier, the reason I pulled this out is because it was noisy, and I did do some dodgy stuff to it last year to try and make it survive, I guess. But that sort of bit me in the bum. So when I dropped it off at Jesse's, he was a little bit busy, so he only just got to it recently. And once he knocked the pinion out to put some new bearings and that on it, he found that the pinion gear had a section of hard facing missing. I'll chuck a photo on the screen. So essentially the gear set was ruined, and that would have been the cause of the noise. So it was a very urgent call to the guys at Roadrunner Off-Road, and thankfully they had 4.6 gears on the shelf ready to go. So I had some express posted down. I got them straight out to my brother, and he worked his magic, done a full rebuild, locker install with new gear set. So we've got a brand new diff going on here. So the gear set that was in it, you could see there was a lot of wear on it, and I don't know how many Ks they'd done. I bought them secondhand years ago, and they've been in the car, yeah, for a number of years. So it's going to be nice just to have a brand new gear set, and I'm looking forward to having the locker in the back. I was sort of getting sick of the LSD. So before I run out of time, let's get it in. I say this in every video I've put a diff in. Every time I slip it in, I always put the locker line on and pressurize it. And that way when I'm doing the whole install, you can hear if it's got a leak or potential problem while you're going, rather than putting it all together, taking it out for a drive and realize it leaks for some reason. Being the rear diff, it's not too bad. Pretty easy to pull out, but if it's a front diff, you'll be absolutely cursing. Nothing worse than trying to drive a lifted patrol, no sway bar. Well, that's it. The jobs are done. The wheels are on. I've torqued them up with a torque wrench. The only thing left I've got to do is just throw my camping gear in and get some fuel, and we are right to go. So I'll wrap this one up here. Sorry it wasn't overly exciting, but I am excited to get back in this car. It's been a while since I've even been driving. I've been so stuck in here, and with work and other stuff has been super busy. But we should have 2 videos from King's birthday. I think I'm going to Wild Dog Winch Challenge to film, so I'll be floating around there hopefully. Then we've got some race car stuff to do, and then the ute build will get funneled in there somewhere. That should be back by the time this video is released. Actually, I should have it back in the shed. So it's going to be a massive couple months, but stay tuned and I'll see you in a fortnight.